that have and will be built in Cayuga County. The Cayuga County IDA can help by stopping this offensive practice and not providing pilots to industrial renewable projects. The charter of the IDA is to increase Cayuga County jobs, and these projects do so minimally during build out and do not continually significant add employment levels after they're energized. The renewable projects gobble up prime agricultural land, which will be taken out of production forever. We as a society are just learning now the long-term destruction of productive soil. And major food companies are starting to screen their food components, such as wheat, corn, etc., to assure it isn't grown on land exposed to renewable energy due to plastics and other pollution. Focusing on manufacturing, tourism, and agriculture, which the IDA has done successfully, results in the manufacturing results in a spin-off of 3 additional jobs. You guys already know that for each manufacturing position. Please keep doing this. It helps our county. Tourism needs help, and personally, my husband and I leave Cayuga County each weekend to simply bike, with Geneva having paid bike trails along the Onondaga County. We then bolster their non-Cayuga County economies by eating out and shopping after eating. We live along Owasco Lake and must drive by Emerson Park to walk our dog. Emerson Park has no spot to dock a boat long enough to hop out and walk over to Green Shutters for an ice cream or a meal. There's a lot of opportunities to support these activities. Tourists will love it. My request is to send a message to Albany, our politicians, renewable developers, and downstate that Cayuga County is open for business, but renewable industrial projects are not welcome, especially the Agricola wind farm that will destroy valuable land, habitat, and the families that live within the footprint of it. 3 minutes.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I do have one idea. I just thought of this. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. So this is a competitive advantage that you guys have to keep in this room. Seriously.
This is a live streamed event
Potentially.
and is posted online. I just want you to be aware.
Thank you. So I think, so my.
Oh, it's not right.
It was definitely not private.
Somewhat facetious, but not. My background is energy, and I thought of this idea. So we have these transmission lines. Why are the renewables coming here? Because there's capacity in the transmission lines. If this county took the position to block the renewables, let's say for 10 years, 5 years, whatever.
Let's restrict our discussion to our area of expertise. We're not the county.
Okay.
If
The idea.
If you're in energy, you realize that New York State on certain size energy, we have no say. They can cite it regardless of what the locals say. That's the fact.
But that is a fact. That's what it is.
And that's
You're
the fact
absolutely
with a
right.
big solar farm up in Cato area.
You're correct. You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
I know
I agree with you. So that's
Well,
good.
all right.
I'm saying
Anybody else?
that you guys can do pilots. You guys can do pilots.
Please. Anybody else? John?
Support Ann, what she said,
Yeah.
important.
And and I would add to it, unprepared, so try to.
No, that's fine. We're very friendly.
Okay, so I would,
I know, Dylan.
I would say, I would echo what Ann said. Moratorium until so many things are changing in the energy, and you have data centers, you have everything going on. No secret studies are being done because ORIS has superseded that. They can whatever they're doing. And I totally understand. It's out of our control. However, the landowners are a part of it.
Right.
If the IDA, the county, whatever comes out with a stance like, let's just dig in our heels here until we can let the dust settle a little bit. We can protect our tourism, we can protect our ag land, we can protect what the citizens enjoy about this area and build on that. The governor has invested billions of dollars, and she just announced that she was going to invest whatever, however many millions in Canandaigua for low income housing, when there's not the capacity on the lines, they're saying they can't build in Canandaigua. So what the heck is going on? And I would urge you to take the position, just let the dust settle. And you don't have to issue a pilot. Just kind of, put the brakes on, see what's gonna happen. And I would urge you to take the direction of supporting things that support tourism.
Yeah, there's very little of what she said that we don't concur with. But we have to work within the framework that we have,
Mhm.
and we can, and I think we're all looking to do the same
So-
thing.
So I didn't realize there's 3 minutes, but I will finish my thought.
Well, no.
So
You-
strategic,
oh,
so
come on now.
strategic, yeah, but I
You've
didn't-
used your 6 minutes, that's enough.
strategically.
You
if
can talk
have-
again in the next meeting.
That's very helpful.
Well, I'm sorry,
If you-
we've got a lot of work to do and we need to move.
So we
this
have
meeting
other
along.
people who didn't take their 3 minutes. I was just
No.
gonna say strategically.
I said you're done, that's it.
Okay, you're right. I apologize. Sit quietly.
All right, anybody else? Okay, thank you. Approval of the minutes,
So,
I second.
all in favor?
I,
Report of the treasurer.
Okay, so we have, in terms of bills and communications, your packet included, the printed packet has the cover sheet of the bills. Pretty general things, couple of call outs, website domains renewed in April, so you'll see that GoDaddy charge. The Barton and LaJudas invoice is the final invoice from the work related to the Brutus property. The PO box is also being renewed for another 6 months, so that payment, Michael was gonna do that last week, or he might do it when he gets back, but that is coming up as well. And then the Loki Brill bills are being paid by Altus and Sun East, or Altus, but coming through the IDA. And I think those will be the last ones we see for that project. So those are just some call outs on the bills. I'm happy to answer any questions on those and do a motion before we move on to the budget report.
who will be approved?
Second, any discussion? All in favor?
On the budget report, just a couple of things to note. On the balance sheet, we have received payment from the Waynes for the property at the northern portion of the mall property. So that money is in the bank, and that will reduce the accounts receivable amount for the May balance sheet, or the May balance sheet. But we just received it last week, so that's why that doesn't show up on the April. Other receivables include those local labor waivers. Those were receivable at the end of the month in May, but we have received, or we expect to receive those soon, as well as the payment for the Loki Brill fees from Altus. And the land sale for Sunbird, we haven't received yet. So we have a lot of money we're waiting to get in. And then as of the end of the month, accounts payable included that final Barton LaJudas invoice, the 2 Loki Brill invoices for the Altus Sun East projects and the Industrial Park Electric. We've received a few bills since the end of the month, but that's what was on there for the April 30th accounts payable. And then on your budget versus actual report, which is a P&L, the Finger Lakes Railroad has paid their pilot, including the annual administrative fee, and which was $5,000. So we have that in the bank now. That will all show up on the May report. We also have the disbursement checks to get those payments out to the municipalities that are being signed tonight. The $2,000 on the marketing expense line is the final payment for the current Locate Finger Lakes contract. So that is coming to an end, I believe, in July, and this was the last payment on that contract. And then the outside contract services has those 2 Loki Brill bills on it. Also included with the financials were the list of contracts and vendors that I sent out after the last meeting. I just put that in there in case anyone wanted to chat about it. And then that's it. Those are the things I kind of thought you might want to know about.
It's, don't see the whole is the final step with the sale of the mall.
Yeah, I can go there too. We close on Friday. That's right.
Like a race. You can go-
I know, I know. I read that lane. Very good.
Wait a minute. Oh,
$84,020.62.
and we had previously received a deposit, so.
Yes.
So something in the range of $90,000.
Yeah, there was it was a $2,000 seller transaction cost per agreement. So that was in addition to the sale price of 84. And then there was a $2,000 deposit that got offset. So.
So
It'd be
88,000.
Yeah.
88,000
$80,000
total. Including reimbursement for expenses. Unless there's other questions, Chair will just need a motion to approve the treasurer's.
Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, was there a motion passed last year about a special fund for
Lane,
land sales? With that? What?
My understanding is that motion included just the original 1,250.
And it was for a specific amount of money, about
Right.
$2.5 million, I think.
I think it would, it's on the ballot.
Ongoing, okay.
I think it was just for.
Yeah, that on the balance.
1,250,000 is the, I believe, the amount. Yeah, and that's what the
That's a
motion
good
was for.
question. Is it the board's pleasure to put this money in that reserve?
I think we should. I think we've had interest in several parcels that we've looked at that we
Right.
probably need to discuss today. And I think I would make a motion that we put that into the reserve for the purchase.
Any discussion, Tom, Don? Desperate?
Probably Justin and I will have some interim bills that include our time on this file. So if you want, maybe at the motion would be that the net proceeds up to,
Well, I think we can put the full amount
Okay.
in.
Yeah, I'm just wanting to let you know there will be some.
You're typically pretty reasonable. All right, all in favor? Opposed? The ayes have it.
Oh, Executive Director update, I believe, is next. Michael, are you able to speak to this, or do you want me to try to cover it?
That depends. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great. So everybody, as usual, has my written report there. Just a couple of quick walk-on items. As everybody knows, I believe I am over at the annual EDC conference here in Cooperstown. Couple of quick project updates. We have successfully closed on, or will be closing on officially on the 29th for the labor buyout. We have as also moved ahead with the final closeout with the property of sale to the Waynes. Thank you to Rick in particular on that. We're still working through the sale of land to Sunburn Sales. Continuing discussions with couple of different potential developments, specifically over in Aurelius. I believe everyone does have the site inspection report for Page Trucking. I'm engaged with Cayuga Milk Ingredients to get that set up on that end. On the land front, I believe some of our members can speak better to that based on some conversations we've had over the last month. From a stakeholder perspective, I had the chance to join the CNY Regional Planning meeting. Their featured speaker over this last month was Joe Nemi, who's the government relations rep for Micron. Brought in some great details for us of things our region can and should be focusing on, and to distill it to two principal areas would be site acquisition and development, as well as workforce. So those two items were specifically noted. Some other items to just quickly bring to the board here as well. We had the SBDC Small Business Week held the beginning of the month. If everyone is aware of New Hope Mills, they were selected as our new business of the year, which was great to see. We're continuing work elsewhere with our partners on a range of items between our countywide comprehensive strategic plan, as well as the two RFPs we have out for the housing market strategy, as well as the countywide economic development strategy. And we're continuing everything for the BOA as well. So that is the principal updates there, but I'm happy to answer any additional questions.
Any questions for Mike? We'll let you get back to the poll.
There's no poll.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could be there. The timing just could not be figured out.
No, we appreciate that, Mike. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. The labor report.
Kevin Loki is on the Zoom to provide a quick update on the labor reporting.
Good afternoon. How are you today? So I have our April 2026 site monitoring reports reflecting our visits between the 1st and the 30th of April. First project I have is the US Sterling Station Road 1 LLC project. The monthly compliance for April for Cayuga residents was 0%. Local area compliance was 37%. The monthly count for other New York State residents was 63%, and there were no non-New York residents on that project during the month of April.
Are they in the numbers then?
They are not hitting the target numbers yet. No. However, I believe they have to meet a reduced percentage. So I can look at those numbers for you real quick now if you'd like me to. If you just want to give me one moment.
No, that's all right. But I think, the report's fine. But at some point, if they're not going to hit the numbers, we got to do something, right?
Yes. And I'll certainly communicate to you, far enough in advance if we have any concerns of them meeting what they're required to do. That's certainly something that I'm engaging in conversation with Mike about. So you will certainly be notified of that if I find it to be a perilous situation there. So the next project I have for you is the Sun East Dog Corners project. The monthly Cayuga residency compliance was 12%. The local area compliance was 71%. Other New York State residents were 12%, and non-New York State residents were 5%. And the last project I have is the Sun East Scipio Solar project. Their monthly Cayuga compliance percentage was 4%. Local area was 69%. Other New York State residents was 18%, and non-New York State residents was 9%.
All right, and then the same question on these two.
They've already, they're paying the fees. They'll be released from that.
All right, any questions? Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
We won't train for those jobs.
Did we pass the code of ethics or no?
No, we've been needing to get the governance committee
All right.
set up.
So Bob and I met. And basically, this is the same thing. I just printed, I sent you guys a copy, but I printed a hard copy. Look at it. It basically is the last two paragraphs. So I would move that.
I'd second this, because you sent me.
Yeah.
It's good to have the ethics covered. I think we ought to take an example from Tom here on one of the projects that he had a potential conflict. He declared it up front.
Yeah.
Recuse himself, and that's as it should be. You know, the more that we can do, the more we can focus on where we're supposed to focus.
No, that was great to Tom. Discuss that all in the beginning.
Common sense and ethics, and quite often they don't always exist in the same brain.
Any discussions on this?
I've got a quick comment.
Sure.
The final paragraph, further, the board members along with the officers and staff of the agencies shall refrain from lobbying the Cayuga County legislators or agencies on matters concerning the agency without the consent of the board, or in rare cases of emergency, the consent of the chairman. I don't know exactly what that means. And I gotta be honest, any of you folks that need to go speak to the county because of me doing something improper, or when we're talking about lobbying, I'm not exactly sure what we're getting at with this paragraph.
I think we had a few issues in the past where the board was kind of split. We had a couple of people go lobby the chairman.
When you say lobby, I guess that's what's confused. You're talking about discussing, I don't understand what that means.
So maybe
Maybe we need.
maybe I can clarify. So I think what you're referring to would be covered by our whistleblower policy, where if there's like misconduct of a board member, that would go through our whistleblower policy. What this is referring to is negotiating with legislators, advocating for certain positions someone wants them to take to either in the budget or in a policy that
Right.
advantages the IDA in a certain way. And so what we found in the past is that maybe the whole board hasn't discussed a particular path or strategy, but the legislature is talking about it. And we just want to make sure that the whole board is aware of what is being asked of the legislature on behalf of the IDA.
So that I understand,
Yeah.
but the way it's drafted here does not make that clear. If we could change the language so that it's clear to us that
Well,
not one individual is entitled to go negotiate on behalf of the IDA. I'm totally on board with that, but the way it's listed here, it's almost like you got to be careful because you got your First Amendment rights as board members. But if the idea is when you're taking an official position on behalf of the IDA up at ledge, if that's the push of this, I get it. I just think we need to work on the language a little.
Should we move an executive session right now, Judy?
yeah.
Can I suggest we let Danny make her presentation and then
Alright,
come back
okay.
to this?
All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Do you want to go ahead?
Sure, if you want me to.
Sure.
I'll keep it quick.
Oh, you have a presentation.
Yeah.
There are hard copies of the presentation for the board members in the middle of the table there. Show this first. I know how Zoom works. So Danny is here today, with Center States in her role as Center State CEO. And this, we asked Danny to come following our conversation at the last board meeting. There's just a question about what is happening regionally on workforce development. And so what Danny is here to do today is to talk about what the market conditions are in the region for workforce development, particularly impacting construction workforce availability, but also what programs already exist and what's happening, what movement is happening in the region to make sure that we're just aware of the ecosystem that we're potentially walking into when we're talking about workforce development. So with that, I will hand it to Danny.
Thank you.
No.
Oh, you're gonna let me mouse it? Okay. This. So my name's Danielle Zaba, Danny. Nice to see some of you again. So can I click?
Yeah.
Nope.
There you
There we go. Just I like to give a little overview. Center State, for those that may not be aware of who or what Center State is, we are a regional economic development organization. We oversee 12 counties, all the way from St. Lawrence, all the way down to Tompkins, everything that's highlighted in blue here. We are also our local chamber as well. The team that I work on primarily focuses on economic development, workforce development, and entrepreneurship and strategy. So as Tracy said, like this is the current landscape that's going across our whole state right now as it relates to economic activity. And what does that mean for construction? These are all multi-hundred and or billion-dollar projects that have all started or will be starting this year. And what this means is that it is the same contractors, and it is the same unions and trades across the whole state that are competing for the same talent pool. What this doesn't include is all of the housing development projects that are happening across the state, all of the other infrastructure projects, solar projects, IDA projects. So this is massive economic activity for our full state. What we are currently working on within Center State and some of our state partners and regional partners is how are we building a proactive workforce strategy to serve all public and private construction projects. Because knowing that Micron, the largest private investment in our state history that will be starting or has started work, is going to put pressure on the full workforce system across our state and even having people come in our state. So right now, what we are working on is a coordinated workforce strategy to make sure that we have visibility of who is ready, but then also how are we upskilling future workforce for these jobs. So the workforce challenge extends beyond recruitment. It's not just recruiting people to go into construction jobs. Some of the industry challenges we know right now is the aging trades workforce and retirements, the competition, I said, across all the projects for skilled labor, the preparation exposure. How are we engaging with young adults to expose them to opportunities? How are we getting people that may be in unfulfilling jobs into these opportunities? But more importantly, how are we also working on the barrier mitigation? People that have transportation problems, housing, childcare, so on and so forth. The workforce system challenge right now is that this is such a unique challenge because never before in history have we had so many construction jobs going or projects going on at the same time. So how do we centralize recruitment? Construction is a unique industry in the sense that the project creates the opportunity, and it's the contractor and or the union that actually employs them, right? So how do we create a centralized workforce strategy to educate job seekers? How do I get to the actual job through that? So how do we fix the fragmented recruitment efforts? Also knowing staffing capacity. Everyone already is overworked in what they're doing. So how do we create better efficiencies in the systems and partners that are already doing this work? Inconsistent employer engagement. We know that partners that are doing training programs or doing direct services to get people into jobs, there's not the same level of engagement. So how do we kind of standardize the assessments and engagement to get people into that? Also, the limitations around rural outreach, the insufficient supportive services, short-term funding, and then also the difficulty aligning workforce supply and the project timelines, right? All these things are going on at different timelines. So how do we actually prepare the workforce before the demand actually comes? So as Tracy said, this is just an overview. What have we done thus far and how are we preparing for this? So there are several layers to how we have been building this out as a region. I'm going to first start with Syracuse Build and then work my way down through number 6, Vehicles to Work, which is our transportation supportive service, just to kind of give you an update of how we are building each of these things out. So this is actually Micron's from the final environmental impact study. This is their commuter or local labor shed. They have essentially put a 90-mile radius, which is 28 counties. And through this, there are 5 building trades councils through this. So why is the regional coordination so important to this? Try to think of these projects not based off of just county specific. We have high commuter rates all over the place. So regionally, this is going to impact everyone. So workforce demand in one area impacts labor availability across the broader region is kind of what we're trying to set here for it. So as we're building out this on the industry side, we are working with all these building trades councils as well as every contractor that is coming onto the project. So Syracuse Build has been an initiative that Center State CEO developed about 8 years ago in partnership with the mayor's office, as well as Upstate Syracuse University and the Building Trades Council. And this is our policy-driven strategy to make sure that there is local hire attached to public and private construction projects. Primarily, we started this off with I-81, knowing that working with the Department of Labor and Department of Transportation, that we wanted to see local representation on this major infrastructure project, which is $2.25 billion. So kind of working within this partnership, how do we make sure that there is language showing up in term papers or PLAs as it relates to Syracuse builds? We're also doing this similar with Micron and then also some other public projects that are coming up. But really, this is our workforce strategy to be able to support these projects. We've now built out this operational mechanism, which we call first source hiring. How do we actually do the recruitment, the assessment, and the referral to get the local folks onto the actual job? How do we can actually connect them to the contractor or the unions? So we have been, our mantra has been many projects, many pathways, one centralized process. So we're working with various talent pools, educational partners, social service agencies, Department of Labor, some of our other state partners, Department of Social Service, to say, how do we tap into your existing databases and also people that are enrolled in current training programs to centralize them into one intake talent pool proactively. The same thing that we're doing this, every contractor that we're working on I-81 or the Micron project and future projects, how are we able to work in partnership with our Building Trades Council and those contractors to get their work orders to better understand their scope of works? So we then can also put them in the same data platform so we can actually start matching folks into opportunities and then transfer them into the project sites of that. Future Ready Workforce Innovation Consortium. So as we had talked about, or not talked about, but one of the layers is the educational training, right? We have people that have all different variations of education. Those that want to get into construction but have never had any experience. Some that may have been exposed indirectly of helping out a family member or a friend. Those that just need help. So as we were building out Syracuse Build, the educational component side of this is the consortium, which is made up of over 100 partners across central New York and the southern tier. So some Cayuga County partners that are part of this is Cayuga Community College, Cayuga Works, BOCES. They're part of all of this. So what does this actually mean? We are working with all these partners that are focused on construction-related programs and or advanced manufacturing programs to say, how are you currently training people? And are we actually aligning to the jobs that are actually in the need of the industry? So working with them to be able to secure funding to build capacity in their programs, being able to help build candidate profiles that really are the aptitudes, the character traits, the competencies and skills that we're hearing from the contractors and the unions, and then being able to create resources and content and curriculum to help enhance these program partners. So we are building quality candidates that are coming out of it. So this has been going on for almost 4 or 5 years. And this continues to grow in membership of educational and workforce partners. Our next layer is OnRamp. This is the One Network for Regional Advanced Manufacturing Partnership. So Empire State Development invested in about $200 million to build out these on-ramp initiatives. Syracuse is considered the flagship of these initiatives. There's one in Mohawk Valley, also in the capital region. And the idea of this is how do we centralize all industry-driven workforce training programs into one area? And also how do we bring in supportive services and also basic readiness into the same same facility with that. So they are working with training providers to build capacity to actually run these industry-driven programs. A lot of these opportunities are paid trainings. We're trying to access people that are underemployed, right? How do we empower people that may be, once again, in unfulfilling jobs to take that chance to actually invest in themselves? But then more importantly, as we hear from industry of needed certifications or needed skills, how can they be quick, nimble to actually build out these training programs in a way that is going to actually fulfill the industry? I'll give a quick example. So BOCES in Syracuse, they have welding programs. But the iron workers actually said, hey, for the Micron project, we need a specialized welding skill. So can you actually work with us to actually build out a specialized welding training program so we can actually expedite the process of getting more people certified in this welding skill that we know that's going to be coming up. So Center State worked with BOCES, we worked with the iron workers, we raised some funding. And now this program runs. It's a paid training where the iron workers then come into BOCES and recruit directly out of that and take people into their local. So that's one example of how this is supposed to be nimble to actually respond to industry need for it. So Pathways to Apprenticeship is another program that came out of the early days of the Syracuse Builds initiative as we were kind of building up that workforce strategy around serving public and private projects. We needed to strengthen our relationship with the Building Trades Council. We needed to educate people. What does it mean to actually go into a union? What does it mean to commit to a multi-year apprenticeship, right? Especially for those that might not have any higher education experience. So this is a program that has actually been co-developed by the unions, taught by the unions. It's a paid training where people actually go to each of the training halls, get hands-on experience, and they also get several certifications that are recognized in the industry: OSHA 10, CPR, first aid, multi-core craft curriculum certification, Green Pro. And in looking at big map of the Micron local labor shed, we have scaled and replicated these programs so every building trades council in the central New York and the southern tier region will have access to these apprenticeship readiness programs. Excuse me. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about was the supportive services, right? As we have recognized as a workforce and industry challenge is to be able to have access to reliable transportation. Once again, construction, you really can't enter that industry without having a reliable car, right? Especially for the contractor or the union, you're probably expected to commute somewhere between an hour and 2 hours from your residence. So we created an initiative. It's funded by Center State. It's operated by Westcott Community Center. And really what this does, it allows us to bring flexible dollars in to meet people where they are as it relates to their transportation need. So if you need do car repairs, we can pay for that. If you have fines on your DMV record, we can pay for that. Oh, you need your driver's license? We can help you get that. You need driving lessons? We can do that. Oh, you want to buy a car? We have a car buyer program. So this has been a huge supportive service to anyone that's been going into construction programs. As of last year, we actually served 310 folks. And out of that, 301 of them actually secured reliable transportation for it. Yeah. So Cayuga County, just kind of, once again, I wanted to give an overview of some of the initiatives and some of the efforts that we're doing across the region. But for things for Cayuga County to think about, right? Communities across the region are evaluating their workforce readiness. Here in Cayuga County, who is ready to go? Who is skilled to go into the construction industry? Looking at your local economic project activity. You guys have wonderful tech parks. You guys have wonderful opportunities for housing. You're an adjacent county to a lot of these massive projects. So really kind of considering, how are you preparing your workforce? Contractor access to your local labor, right? If people are coming, our contractors are coming to the IDA, do they have a place to go to call to say, hey, do you have people for me? Recruitment infrastructure, who is the intermediary in this community that can actually work with all of the partners to actually mobilize a centralized talent pool to help contractors and unions actually access folks here. Supportive service coordination, right? Childcare, housing, and transportation. How and who can you refer into the community so people can access those supportive services? Long-term workforce sustainability. Do you know the durations of your projects? Do you think that there is going to be enough need for it? And then also, how is Cayuga County inserting themselves for some of these regional coordination opportunities? So, any questions?
That's pretty thorough.
There is.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Any other questions from the rest of
I didn't remember my question.
Okay. You were talking about training.
Oh, that was just local stuff.
Yeah, so we just wanted to, there's no specific recommendations right now. But we wanted to make sure that the board was aware because we're having these conversations about the local labor waiver, payments and just how we're dealing with that local labor issue that we've been seeing, like having an issue with that policy. So we just wanted to kind of bring to the forefront what's already happening in the region as a context for those conversations.
Can you actually go back to the pathways map where those little hard hats are? Just to give a little more context, as these communities right here, they have been communities that are proactively investing in their local labor shed. Because the idea of this work is that Micron is going to put pressure, right, on all construction projects. So if every community is not proactively thinking, well, how are we preparing our local workforce for construction jobs? They're going to go out of Cayuga County and they're going to actually go to these larger opportunities. So as IDA projects are coming in or other projects are coming in here, how are you preparing to keep local residents here to work on your public and private construction projects? So these communities have been actively working with us to say, how do we organize our community partners? How do we raise funding? How do we work with our local decision makers to making sure that we have a solid plan in place to backfill our local workforce if they decide to go to these larger projects for it? Because your projects are not going to stop, right? They're going to keep going at the same time as all these other large projects.
No, and even right now, even with the current situation, it's hard to get anybody to do any construction work.
I think BOCES is having a career thing, June 1st or something right in there. Do you have any of your businesses there or?
So like working with BOCES, there's CTE, which is the career technical education, which is kind of the high school students and also the adult education. So working with the actual BOCES team to say, after people graduate your program, where are they going? And how are you able to track it? What we're finding out is all these program partners don't have the capacity to follow up with them. So this is where the centralized intake process, right? How do we build better efficiencies across multiple programs and multiple partners to say, if you all funnel in to this one intake, then we have one centralized way to contact people to make sure that they know where to go for their next step, whether it's into the union or the contractor or even a private company for that matter for it. But that's how we're also trying to build capacity in some of our partners. But here locally in Cayuga County, who is the intermediary that's actually able to work on the local level with the BOCES, with the community college, with Cayuga Works, which is your one stop, to making sure that you guys are keeping people for opportunities here in Cayuga for it. We can help on a regional level, but who is the point of contact here that's really kind of acting as the neutral convener of making sure that there is a viable workforce strategy that's industry driven?
Just one other relevant, I think we might have mentioned this last time, I think Michael might have mentioned it, but a relevant piece of information is that our Cayuga Works Center and Workforce Development Board is in the midst of transitioning from being partnered with Cortland County to being partnered with Oswego County, which makes a lot of sense. There was just a shift across the state in how these regions are, and ours changed. So now they are kind of in in the middle of this right now, this transition. But moving forward, we're actually going to be partnering with Oswego counties on a lot of these efforts, and that might make a difference in how our workforce group is able to respond to these kinds of.
And then Kelly's very active in businesses and college.
But to that point, and Kelly's wonderful, and Kelly's engaged. Rachel Pierce, who is the director of the Workforce Development Board in Oswego, right? And what we know for Cayuga residents, migration patterns, especially in the north, they tend to go to Oswego, right? So we currently have an Oswego Pathways construction program up in Oswego. What about Cayuga? What about doing a pathways program here in Cayuga? So contractors and unions here can actually pull people out of that actual program, right? Because you don't want necessarily all the Cayuga County residents enrolling into the Oswego construction program, right? Because then they might work for opportunities that are in the Oswego area. So it's just, once again, thinking through, like, how are you investing in your future workforce as it relates to construction? But we also know what's coming after that is that we're going to have a massive ramp up in advanced manufacturing. And you guys do manufacturing really well, right? And what Micron's going to bring here? Tons of supply chain vendors, right? So it's, once again, not just thinking about construction, but if you build the viable workforce strategy for one industry, it can replicate to many.
Yeah, it's a blue collar, I guess. Very good.
When, Tracy, when will the Oswego Cayuga thing be done? Do you know? Or?
I don't know.
So I just saw Rachel this week.
All right.
That has been signed by her county ledge, but the actual transition can be before the end of this year. There's not kind of set date for it. Yeah. But the Department of Labor has done consolidations across the state, essentially to merge the smaller workforce development boards into larger. Yeah.
No, because we've often talked that you know, we keep trying to create jobs where we really need to create workers.
Or it's identifying your workers and upskilling workers. Yeah.
All right. Any questions?
I think it's gonna be mid-year end from what I'm gathering.
Yeah.
Thinking with the workforce. Well, that's a good.
There's, you know, I kind of like the idea that, you know, like Tom had all these suggestions. It's kind of nice, there's already a framework, right? There's no sense us reinventing the wheel.
Exactly. We just need to be involved with.
Yeah, if we could fund a few things.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Well, thank you.
Well,
very
thank
much.
you.
That was a great presentation.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak on it.
Mike really didn't talk it up enough.
Oh. We'll have a conversation later,
Yeah,
Michael.
you know. I'm just kidding. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Andy.
Yeah.
It's good seeing you, Rick.
All right.
I'd like to take this chair now. Yeah.
Actually, and there's a chair there too. All those, that's. There's a chair over there in the corner too. Like,
Are we gonna discuss land today?
yeah. We'll wait for that. We'll go into that. Yeah. All right. Site monitoring, we've already hit that.
So the site monitoring.
Oh, that's the.
Is, so just, we sent out post and as an update, and I also printed for your packets, a letter from Page Trucking about their labor situation. So that's just information from them specifically about how their staffing needs have changed over time. But also, I know that Michael has gone to visit them, and as well as the CMI Eagle Drive Holdings recently. So just know that his monitoring visits are ongoing, and CMI, I know, and Eagle Drive Holdings have been exceeding expectations since CMI started, so
Right.
I think we're in a good place with them.
Yeah, it sounds like the trucking outfit will turn around.
Yeah, I think there's gonna be some good opportunities with Micron and the supply chain coming out of that. I know that those conversations are ongoing. I think there's gonna be plenty of work for them.
Yeah.
In the upcoming years.
I do have a question on that. When I read this, none of this looks like it's gonna develop workforce there. You know, in one hand, they're claiming that business is hurting, but then they're saying that they can't fill jobs, but then we're gonna grow the businesses outside of Cayuga County. So at what point, we cut them a check for $26,000 this year. They're way off their target, so at what point do you claw this back?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, so I would, Michael, or did you hear that?
I did hear that. So it is a good question. One of the big focal points of discussion I had with Piper was to one, clarify the original job figures that were provided in the application. And as we went through that discussion, there was, some digging into here's our entire workforce and then more specific within New York State. And as you've seen over the years, there's been quite a bit of fluctuation, and it really started around COVID. So they've been climbing their way back during this time. They're in the process or have just recently closed an acquisition of another company to take advantage of that. So their workforce is growing. But they made it clear as part of their operations that they're having a very difficult time retaining and attracting workers within their industry, and it's not just them. I believe everyone here who has been observing the market or any industries, there is a great shortage of certified drivers. So that's really been impacting them, and they do have a number of openings. They have worked with ESD in putting together a whole training program at their facility, which I personally toured. It's very well done. They're just having difficulty, again, retaining and attracting workers, even though there is significant demand.
Right, and one of our provisions about the labor is if there's mitigated. It's in the UTE, our tax exempt. So, and I think we had a big discussion about this last year, Michael. Or was it the year before?
Specific to this?
Yes. Because they've been undergoing some pretty tough headwinds.
Yeah, I guess the problem I have is the headwinds they're saying are COVID recovery, which every business is going through.
Yeah.
But when I read this, it seems like they're actually hiring outside of the area, unless they're hiring like in New England or outside of Cayuga County. An acquisition seems like a struggling business to me. And just if their headcount goes up by acquisition, I'm not convinced that that's added jobs.
I guess it depends if they have the jobs in Cayuga County. Right?
Yeah, if they're moving people here, but right. Business.
Michael, if they're adding in Cayuga County, or is this out of state?
I believe the company they were looking to acquire was specific to New York State. But they did make note that there is a greater talent pool outside of New York State right now. And they did mention that if clawback provisions were enacted, they would very seriously consider moving their entire operation out of the county and potentially the state.
To be to the BOCES job fair. BOCES trains truck drivers too. Right. They should be at that thing.
Yeah, can you pass that on to him, Michael?
Certainly, and we have also, as part of the supply chain activation network, and working with Center State, made sure they're getting connected into that area as well.
Project pipeline.
Yeah, Michael, I would appreciate if you handle this one if you can.
Sure. So what I provide the board typically on an annual basis is just a very high level snapshot of some of the projects within our pipeline. I'm sure you'll easily identify that some of the larger figures are coming from our renewable development projects. That is to say, these are companies that have noted that they would like to apply for IDA benefits, the timing of which is speculated based on last conversations with them. But we do also have a variety of other projects within the pipeline, including hospitality, housing, and mixed use development.
Any questions about the kind of the pipeline? And if, you know, obviously this is all speculative.
Jason.
Yeah.
So Andy's making a great point, and we have had, and this continues to happen now and forever into the future, projects can come on and drop off at any given time for a variety of reasons. Because we're covering almost every single industry, there's all sorts of different trends that may impact one or the other, or even national or state level impacts.
Well, it's a good pipeline. All right, office space.
So this came up after the last meeting. The lease for this space expires on September 30th of this year. And if we would like to, we have the option to extend the lease for an additional year at the same rent with 60 days notice. So we just want to make sure that we're getting ahead of the timeline for the end of the lease. And if we want to take advantage of that or potentially consider other options, those conversations need to start happening now.
Right.
And, you know, I know obviously we need more chairs. So if we want to just make sure that this conversation happens before we make additional investments in things for this space. So, and then Gina had also mentioned that she does have furniture that she'd be able to donate. We would just have to go get it, assuming we are going to stay in this space or a similar space. But we just need to kind of work through what we're going to do with the lease before we kind of take those next steps. So.
The board's pleasure.
Well, at times we might need more space. What's Mike and Tracy, you're here more than. What's your? Mike?
So the space fits my needs, but I do believe as we're hosting meetings and certainly our guests in the room is to ensure that there's ample seating and an environment, not just for board meetings, but perhaps larger meetings that may be held from time to time. And it's, as Tracy said, up to the board moving forward. But since our lease is coming up within the next few months, we wanted to make sure to bring this to the board now so we can start thinking about it. And if the board would like to extend our lease agreement, are there some potential improvements within our space as is that we should consider going into next year?
Oh, why is the term lease, did you say September?
September 30th.
We weren't here
The
last
lease
September.
started October 1st.
We started October 1st.
But we didn't, with I think some improvements that were being made or whatever the case may
That's when
be.
we started the
You didn't
lease, that's
actually
the
start.
yearly.
Right.
Meeting here, I think, until February.
We talked when we leased this about other people might being here with us. And I thought if Capusa has any need, and I talked to Mike about that on the phone, to make sure it was all right with him. If they need the office space, I think we should offer them one of the offices here if they desire that. Mr. Sherry, remember to, are you interested in?
At some point, we definitely need some.
I would, Mike told me that they was on the list when we did the original lease thing, so that we don't have to get permission from them to do it. I would think we should consider that when they get to the point that they need.
Are we already leasing that space and?
Yeah.
Was there 3 offices here or 4? Trace?
Four. There's 4.
I think there's 4, and Michael used one, so there's at least 2 empty ones, if not 3.
Makes sense.
Well, Michael, not to put you on the spot, but how often are you in?
In a given month, it completely depends. But I don't want to say very regularly. That said, I do have some more meetings coming up within the next month and next few months where the space will be used a bit more.
So pretty much it's fitting your needs.
I guess
That's
I
it,
would,
yeah.
so we can still discuss, I would move that we renew it for a year.
All right, I'd second. Just for discussion, any thoughts?
Possibly if we have a meeting where a lot of people wanna, we might have an alternative place that we could utilize.
No, that's what I was thinking, if we're gonna get a big crowd.
Right.
The same thing we do at the town, if we have a big crowd, we go outside.
Go to the fire department. Out in the cornfield, I know.
Yeah, yeah. And we could do the same thing.
Sure.
Right.
Really nice parking lot back there.
Yeah, yeah.
Having more chairs might help.
Yes. I think the thought was if this step happens, we'll make that step to invest in additional furniture. To make sure everybody can.
Well, we had approved the money last year to spend on some furniture, so that's already there.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? We got a motion, any more discussion?
I'm concerned about making sure we have enough space for the public to, we get more chairs, maybe that does it. I don't know. Everybody probably feels the same way. This seems awfully tight. If more people start showing up. Maybe we borrow a meeting room at City Hall or something free of charge. I don't know what the answer is, but I am concerned with the fact that members of the public can't easily fit in here.
Right,
Right. It changes from time to time. We went a long time when nobody ever came to meetings. And most people were just more popular.
When we had a really big conference room,
No,
nobody came to the meeting.
And nobody come, yes.
well, but we could do that too. We could go to the water and sewer.
We could probably be in the room that we used to meet in out at the, yes.
So.
That would be available as long as they knew ahead of time.
Schedule it.
You know the place we mean?
Yeah, is there not, that's a great question. Is there not an available office or two in sewer, soil and water because of that great meeting room in there? There's not a single office that's open?
No, all their offices.
It is too bad.
Yes.
That's where we originally started.
Yeah. That's great. Everybody can fit in there.
Yeah.
There's restrooms right there.
Yeah.
These are locked, by the way.
Yeah, we have a key. If you do need it, we do have a key.
It's $1, but.
It's just gonna be that way for 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's really good.
No, if you like the door, you can stay overnight. All right, we've got a motion on the table.
But I guess just one comment I have, and I'm fine with the space, but it seems like we're all using it really for meeting rooms. When we got 3 or 4 offices, so, it's, if we're gonna add an extra room, maybe it's worth considering getting just place less office, more meeting room, but it's also, this
We,
is,
we took it was a long,
yeah.
it was tough looking for a space.
There's no sense me. The guy was very, very agreeable that we leased this to change the configuration here any way we wanted him to. If there was a way, maybe one of the offices could be included into a meeting room area. That might
Maybe we
be-
should answer that.
Yeah, I wanted to
Take this
get
wall.
that wall up. Get rid of that wall.
He was very, very willing, was anxious to rent it to us and was very willing to do whatever we wanted.
This is a for-profit owner here.
Most of them are, yeah.
I was just asking Bob about the Ward O'Hara space because we've had county meetings over there in the big room and they have a great meeting area. I don't know if they squeeze us in there somewhere. Well, I wonder if we could squeeze in there for free if Mike's not, I don't know how often Mike needs his office, but
Good thought.
you guys have been doing it there, right?
But there's not office space there available.
Just
not.
me.
We
Just a
did
meeting
need,
room.
we did need an office. Mike was trying to work from his pickup from Aurora and we had a lot of travel expenses and inconveniences and stuff. We worked awfully hard to get an office and it's up to him how much he uses this.
I didn't know they didn't have any offices over there. I've walked around. I just never recognized if they had an office we could cozy into or not. over
You'd
there.
have to take out a couple tractors, but that's.
Now cut that out.
All right, any more discussion? I call the motion. All in favor? Aye, opposed?
Aye.
No.
No. Our executive session for land acquisition and contracts. Don't move. Second. Yeah,
Who's here?
yes.
There's no additional business on the agenda after the executive session, just for everybody's information.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
your time and listening and support, I'm sure.
Yes.
Thank you.
Vote on it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed?
Wait,
All
I'm
right.
sorry, can we clarify what the motion is? It's an RFP for what kind of legal services?
Legal services that Rick doesn't do. And it needs to be spelled out. We need to bring in the electric, to cover Capusa. Maybe Justin can do that, but the RFPs, somebody should write the RFPs to cover all of this, what we're gonna need.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, happy to help spell that out. And I think you have a good point that is Capusa does wheel up and get busier with contracts. Capusa is going to need special energy counsel, and we do that. But if the IDA and Capusa are entering into the same contract or part of the same project, you're going to need someone on the other side of the table, and that makes a lot of sense. So
Right, and it comes back to the ethics thing, right?
Well, you can't represent both, right?
Two sides.
yeah, happy to help spell that out if you folks need a hand.
Yeah, that would be good.
That'd be good. Thank you.
Be hard on Rick's side, all right?
He's an old friend. I go back to Ray's aunt. Come on.
Oh, wow.
That's right.
Well, him and Herbie are old friends, but that doesn't help. Anything else that will get you gentlemen out of here?
Gonna vote on that?
Oh, yeah. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I'm ready to
Adjourn?
Opposed.
For what?
Promote.
All right, I got three names written down now.
to adjourn.
Oh,
Yeah, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, guys. Tom, we'll let you get to your meeting.
So. Well, I need to check with my board to still see if they're if they would be willing to